Hi, my name is Miranda Christner. This is my case study for EDL 854, Missing Booster Club Funds. This case study represents a real-life situation that could take place as a principal dealing with ticket sales. Category 1, my problem identification and analysis. What I know is this case takes place in George Washington Middle School. There's strong community involvement, even though the population has declined. Low socioeconomic status. The principal is Daniel Stevens. The Booster Club requests help during athletic events, a very active PTO. Two people manage the concession stand and two manage ticket sales. Mr. Stevens relies on parent volunteers to attend and take responsibility for duties at the events. Due to him not having an assistant principal, he relies on these volunteers. Mrs. Bowen is a parent volunteer who manages concessions or collects gates proceeds. She has a daughter who's active in cheerleading and was recognized as an all-state cheerleader and was given the opportunity to be in a holiday parade in New York. She made a request to Mr. Stevens to use the PTO funds to help with the trip. Mr. Stevens denied her request based on those funds were in place to help all student body, and using those funds just for one student was not ethical. During the last home football game, Mrs. Bowen was helping with ticket sales. Mr. Stevens talked with a community member who mentioned he used a $50 bill to buy the ticket because he had just gotten paid. After the event, Mrs. Bowman gave Mr. Stevens the bank bag. Mr. Stevens opened the bank bag on the way to the bank, counted the money, and found the concession money was in order. However, he noticed a handwritten note by Mrs. Bowen that stated that 10 tickets were torn, and the total did not reflect the 10 torn tickets, and there was not a $50 bill that he thought would be there. What do I need to know? Where did the torn tickets go? When she noticed those tickets were torn, what did she do with them? Did she throw them away? Did she put them in a different container? Locating those torn tickets, I think, would be important. Who was helping with the ticket sales? If there was two people, who was the other person? What are the procedures for counting the money after event? I would think that those two people who were taking money for tickets would be the people who would be counting the money to give a total to Mr. Stevens. Were their bills larger than a $50 taken? What did they have to give change for a $100 bill? That is something that to consider to why the $50 bill wouldn't be in there. Was there a change fund amount? What was the amount? It didn't mention in the case study. Have volunteers been trained on procedures, or are they just asking parents to help with no guidelines? Also, what I would like to know is why did Mrs. Bowen leave a note instead of informing Mr. Stevens when she noticed the torn tickets? That sounds kind of strange that she would just leave a note and not talk with him directly based on the having pre-numbered tickets. That would kind of put things out of balance, and I would think that that would be something that she wouldn't be one to be reliable for. Has this happened before? If it has, what procedures were put in place for it to be prevented to happen again? Were there any district employees working ticket sales or concessions? I know he relies heavily on parent volunteers, but why not have employees help with that? Identify the problem. The problem here, I believe, is Mr. Stevens is concerned that the total doesn't reflect the amount with the 10 toward tickets and the $50 bill wasn't in the bag. So he has to come up with, he has to investigate this to see what has happened and how to take, what procedures or steps to take next. My proposed plan of action is he needs to review the procedures and the district policies. These should be in place when it takes with any athletic events with ticket sales and concessions. Those need to be reviewed to make sure that he is following the guidelines, and also the parent volunteers are also. He needs to look for ways to prevent it from happening again. So if there's not procedures and policies in place, there needs to be. He needs to investigate. He needs to talk with other people who helped out to find out exactly what took place. After the event is probably not a good time. I think the next day he needs to approach those people and find out what's going on. There's really not enough information. And with that information that he gathers, he needs to find out where those torn tickets are. Strategies of step one is, like I said, review policies and procedures. There needs to be some safeguards put into place. I really think that he should ask for district employees to help with those events. That way it kind of puts them in charge. I think they're more liable or reliable because they work for the district. he needs to be more involved. I understand that, he has other events and he can't do all these supervisory things at these events, but maybe he needs to take more initiative to be involved in those type of things when it comes to monetary funds. He needs to count the money and review documents while people are present. I think waiting until the last minute probably wasn't a good idea. Step 2, he needs to locate the missing money or tickets. Ask Mrs. Bowman about the situation. Let her know about the $50 bill and ask what happened. Ask what she did with the torn tickets. Those need to be located. He needs to ensure that procedures were followed, if there are any, with the district. And he needs to interview the other people that were helping out. Step 3, I think, would be prevention. Install cameras in those areas. Where there are cameras. If they are, they need to be reviewed. Have workers attend a training to go over policies. Make it a paid position instead of a volunteer position. Do not take bills larger than $20. A $50 bill, I think, is pretty hefty depending on what it was to get into the gate, but I just think taking a $50 bill is kind of puts them in a tough position even when it comes with the change fund. And there needs to be more documentation. If there's torn tickets, there needs to be something in place to where that is documented and not just handwritten on a note. Data from the case, when we look at resolving the issue and promoting success, Mr. Stephen was told about a $50 bill. That doesn't mean there was one. Anybody can come in and say this, this, and this, but just going off of hearsay really does not reflect sometimes what really happened. The tickets need to be located and accounted for. Procedures need to be established and communicated to those who volunteer. And again, I stress hiring a district employee to be in charge of those things. Reflection, what I was thinking, I thought there was money missing, and I assumed it was Mrs. Bowen. I think that sometimes we assume things, especially when she had already asked for funds and those funds weren't granted to her. However, that's an assumption and that can't be made as a building leader. I was confused regarding the tickets. I think I didn't realize, I guess I thought they would be located or in the bag. So I was kind of confused about what had actually happened to them, and that question wasn't answered. And again, I just don't know why he isn't more involved. That might be something he needs to go to superintendent or athletic director or whatever they have in place and say, I'm needing some help with these events. And having volunteers probably isn't a good idea. I really think that these kind of positions should be paid. Feeling a little frustrated that he didn't know about it until depositing the money. I think that's a reflection on the volunteers, and also a reflection on him. I think his lack of involvement. We're confused. Where is the other person that helped out? That's something I think that after the event they could have counted the money, went through the documentation, and located all these items before the end of the night. It would limit the confusion. And then I was kind of upset. I thought, at first I did think someone stole from the organization, and I'm like, who would do that? But however, watching a lot of the videos in this course, I do see it happens more often than it should. I'm a firm believer being proactive. Mr. Stevens should know more about what's going on during this time. There should be a school sponsor or employee to oversee it. And that is just taking necessary precautions to ensure monetary funds are safe and safeguarded and procedures and policies are carried out. Unresolved issues. Where are the tickets? How will the money be replaced if not located? Was there actually a $50 bill? Who were witnesses? Was there documentation wrong? Reflection on Standard 8. Standard 8 says the building level administrator is an educational leader who promotes success of all students by ensuring management of the organization, operations, and resources for a safe, efficient, and effective learning environment. Policies must be in place to ensure the operation of the school and activities are safeguarded. The principal must establish routines, policies, and procedures. These must be communicated to all stakeholders within the system. The students and staff at the middle school could participate in ethics activities that promote doing the right thing. Students should have mock case studies and discuss how they would react in certain situations. Taking a situation and learning from it prevents it from happening again. So this could be something that the whole school works on, and also you're teaching the students at the same time. Creating a character program in the school, maybe where students are rewarded for doing the right thing throughout the school day and during school activities. The Booster Club could be a part of this program. The principal needs to play a larger role in ensuring procedures are followed within the operation. Going over these procedures and guidelines with all staff and organizations will assure an effective communication and enhance knowledge. Ways to promote effective management. Creating policies and procedures. When it comes to the operation of concession and ticket sales, will promote effective management. Thank you.